In this episode of the Church Helper podcast, we're looking at how to find out if your church is as welcoming a place as you likely feel it is. Sometimes we can all be blind to some of the everyday things in our churches that don't make other people feel like they're a part of the family. So if you want to make sure everybody who walks through your physical doors or onto your online community feels like they're at home, then stick around because the Church Helper podcast starts right now. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of the Church Helper podcast. Our mission here at Church Helper is to help churches make every decision on purpose. My name is Mike, and I'm excited to help you and your church today. So let's get into it by talking a little bit about hospitality. Hospitality in churches is something that I continue to be asked about a lot by leaders and elders boards. As congregations continue to shrink and more churches close every year, leaders continue to look inward to see if there's something that they can be doing better. They ask me questions like, how can we make first-time guests feel more welcome? How can we encourage them to come back? Or, and I'm kind of paraphrasing this one a little bit, how do we make sure our back door isn't as wide open as our front door? And the last year and a bit, amongst the pandemic, makes it feel like our hospitality strategies have changed. But the essential parts, whether you're in person or online, are pretty much the same. One of the most interesting things that I've experienced is that usually hospitality is an area of the church that people figure they've got covered pretty good. They already have a visitor's table, a greeter at the door, welcome cards in the pew. Online, there's links in the YouTube description, a call to action for somebody to like the Facebook page, or maybe an email address if somebody wants to ask questions. And even though some of these strategies might seem new, it's really just the same strategy in a different place, because asking somebody to like you on Facebook or Instagram is the same as asking somebody to walk over to your welcome table. Part of the message you're sending is, if somebody new would like to feel welcome, they need to make an effort to come say hi to me. And sometimes we forget that they've already done that by walking in your building or by signing in to an online event or service. And the come to me approach might have worked a little bit better in years past, but today it's just not having the same effect. In an interview that I listened to on the Carey Nieuwhof Leadership podcast with Christine Birch, who is the Connections Director at her church, she said, quote, "People maybe assume in small churches that community will just happen. But no matter the size of the church, it takes hustle and it takes intentionality. I think first thing, no matter what size it is, we just have to make sure that we are posturing ourselves so that new guests feel, first of all, expected and then accepted once they have identified themselves. From an expected point of view, what are you doing intentionally to let guests know that you were hoping they'd be there today? Then accepted, are you fostering a culture where people, regardless of their background or their faith journey, whether it exists or not, do they feel like someday maybe I could feel at home here? For me, examining this quote shows two things a church should be asking itself when it approaches hospitality. Question one is, do you think your guest feels expected? And question two is, do you think they feel accepted? These two questions change the conversation regarding church hospitality, so let's take a brief look at each one. First, make them feel expected. Consider how you make first-time guests, whether in person or online, feel welcome and expected by asking yourself or your hospitality team some of the following questions. For in-person gatherings, you could ask, are the signs outside our building easy to follow? Will they direct guests to the right door? Is the parking lot easy to navigate? Where are your greeters positioned? Do greeters at the door have the correct information and know-how to direct or guide first-timers around the building? For online gatherings or events, you could ask, are additional links easy to find? Here's a big one. Is there someone from the church live on your YouTube or Facebook chat while a service is happening? Does your website cater to newcomers or insiders? Do you follow up with comments on social media posts that you generate? When you see somebody new log on, do you say, "Oh, that's somebody new"? Or do you get in that chat box and say hi to that person directly right away? Now, these questions might sound a little simple, but check out these quotes ministry leaders I talked to gave me. And specifically here, we're talking about in-person gatherings. One leader said, "A couple of years ago, I began to notice a few families with kids sitting upstairs in our sanctuary. After asking a few questions, I realized that none of our greeters were directing them or even encouraging them to visit our Sunday school rooms because none of the greeters knew where those rooms were. There was even a Sunday that a new guest asked about programming for children, and the response they got was, 'I think the kids' rooms are upstairs, but I'm not sure.' But they weren't upstairs. They were downstairs, and they had been for years." Another leader told me, "When people arrive at our church on a Sunday morning, they have to climb about 15 steps to get to where the greeting team is waiting to shake their hand. And I guess it could be a bit intimidating." These quotes, although primarily about in-person meetings, do have an online impact because the online equivalent of 15 stairs to a greeter is 5 or 6 online action steps before anybody ever says hello to you back. So we really need to think about what visitors are experiencing. And look, here in 2021, we are about to experience a season where some people might have found faith online during the pandemic, and now they're looking for an in-person community. And it's essential to make sure that if your church is the one they choose, that you're ready for them and that they feel like you were expecting them to be there. Number 2, make them feel accepted. Once you've considered ways that you can make first-time guests feel expected, you can start working on the thing that is sometimes even more difficult, making them feel accepted and genuinely welcome in your building or in your online community. Remember, many new visitors, especially male, millennial, and Gen Xers, will feel uneasy or anxious about coming to church for the first time. Preconceived ideas about the church will have them on high alert. So, how do you help people feel accepted in your church congregation? Consider these questions. For in-person services, do greeters engage visitors with more than a friendly handshake and a simple good morning? Do you have friendly church members who may look out for and even sit with new visitors on their first-time visits? Is your service structure insider-focused or new guest-focused? Are the words or phrases in your service words that should be defined or explained to somebody new? And this last one's maybe a little bit more introspective. Is your congregation truly welcoming or simply tolerant towards new visitors? For online services, you could ask, are you intentionally reaching out to somebody you don't recognize the username of? Are you regularly giving encouragement for people to connect with you online? Are you looking at your social media accounts for new followers and subscribers you don't know and sending them personal messages? You and your team should probably brainstorm some ways to make new visitors feel truly welcome in your church. And you know what, I'd give you more ideas, but sometimes when a team comes up with them together, there's more overall buy-in. So today, I'm really just happy to get that conversation started for you. And finally, here are 3 quick ways that you can start approaching hospitality with more intention and more purpose this week. Number 1, listen to that Carey Nieuwhof Leadership Podcast episode on hospitality. It's really great. I put the description in the link below. Number 2, start a conversation with somebody in your church about hospitality right now. And 3, if you'd like, you can connect with us at Church Helper to see if we can help be a part of your solution as well. Let's commit to finding ways to making people feel accepted and expected at your church really soon. Hey, this is a bit of an unplanned drop-in. I made a comment in our video about how millennial and Gen Xers, especially males, have a lot of skepticisms about going to church. There is this amazing book called Why Men Hate Going to Church by David Morrow, and I would implore you to pick it up. It is such an easy read. The chapters are written, just for guys to read. They're this long each. There's like 24 of them. It feels like you go through the book in no time, but there are so many great ideas and things to consider about being welcoming and hospitable in this book. So go to the links in the description below and please think about getting this book. I don't have affiliate links. I don't know David Morrow. I just think this book is awesome. Hey, hopefully today's podcast helped you up your online and in-person hospitality game at your church. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast and our YouTube channel. And if you think somebody needs to hear this, but they're not really somebody who does a lot of podcasting, you can go to our website for them, churchhelper.ca/podcast, print out a transcript of today's episode and give it to them, I don't know, with a little bow on it maybe. Make sure you go back and check out our series that just finished called Get to Know Your Staff. It was all about getting elders and staff on the same page and being a great team. And if you've ever got any questions, please reach out to us through email at hello@churchhelper.ca, the Get Help Today tab of our website, or by putting something in the chat below. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to help your church make every decision on purpose today. I'm Mike, and I'll talk to you again really soon.